Hi, everyone. We're here with Veronica and her spirit beings, MIRICRIS, and they're going to be channeling tonight, which is wonderful. Veronica's out in the Canada-Washington border, and Lori is in France. And we also want to make a quick announcement that Veronica is going to be doing a live call-in show this Monday, the 20th, the inauguration day, but let's
It's a
not forget
busy day for questions.
for all of you who don't want to watch it on television, we encourage you to call in. It's also in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Day. And so it will happen at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, just to adjust your time zones, and you can see everything about it. I'll put it in the description below. So
Thank you, Lord.
yeah. So here we are. How are you, V?
I'm very happy to be here again, and I'm looking forward to hearing from MIRICRIS again. Wonderful beings. And
Great.
people should know MIRICRIS is like a little group of frequencies and consciousness. You know, there's so much consciousness out there, and they've kind of assembled this little group, which we call MIRICRIS, and they love to work with you. And their whole motivation is to get human evolution. You know, there's a lot of lumps and bumps when we're evolving, but their whole thing is, you could call some of it healing, but some of it is simply evolutionary drives in people. And they love us. We could say, well, but it doesn't matter. They love us. So I'm looking forward to bringing them through for you and for everyone else.
Can you see their form?
I don't see it that way. I see it as vibrational. I see certain colors and sometimes forms, but they don't look like arms and legs and so on. They look more like flows of light and color. But a lot of us, you know, Lori, when you cross over, a lot of us look like that too. Not everybody.
We're just blobs. Frequency blobs.
Yeah, but in motion that has a lot of language to it. You know, a beautiful curved line talks about the smooth changes and the evanescence of, you know, it's like your frequency blob will have a lot of information in it, just like theirs do. Yeah.
Wow. Lovely.
We can be a lot more interesting being a person than we are right now.
Okay, you ready?
We are here. They're coming in very quickly. They want to, as they say, get going.
MIRICRIS, welcome.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. We are so happy to make these connections.
Yes, thanks for joining us and being a part of this beautiful opportunity to spread your wisdom and your love. MIRICRIS, soulmates, sort of a complicated, perhaps misunderstood topic. Can you talk a little bit about soulmates, and do we really want it?
It's a great question, Lori. It's a very personal answer in a way. For example, some people want it and die for it, and some people go, what it is, kind of a jail sentence to be stuck in a way of thinking and being. And our work with people is to help people evolve out of the traps of their karma, their soul's journey, and to really meet up with some of their very high conscious evolutionary trends. Sometimes soulmates don't really want to be on the same purpose. So you'll have this one who wants a hugely expansive being in her world and her light. And this one wants to be safe and get rid of some of the old habitual patterns that she's used through many lifetimes. You see that there will be a battle going on at levels that they can't even comprehend. So sometimes soulmates, if you really find out that your soulmate is actually wanting to operate at a different time frame or a different, we might even say socioeconomic level, it's not that way. It's like in this lifetime, do you want to experience this kind of returning to old karmic things, or do you want to be able to step out of it? And your soulmate has to be there matching some of your goals, just as you have to match hers. But you can understand if hers wants to keep you in a track that you don't want to be in anymore, the match is really uncomfortable.
Very.
The fights are worth. And we also say one other thing, Lori, is that this is an expanding awareness now. You see, there used to be much slower motion in soul growth, but everything's moving more quickly. So how soul mates would come together used to be a beautiful, amicable fusion. Now it's not so much. You can be on very different levels. And again, it's about the movement through the universes and the movement in souls. Do you follow that?
Uh-huh. Absolutely. I also follow that it can be very difficult if you're not on the same wavelength of wanting to grow and you get stuck inside the same pattern.
And let's add another thing to it, that when that happens, exactly what you're saying, Lori, when that happens, the push-pull is excruciating. It's not just simply uncomfortable, it's very seriously excruciating.
Excruciating, and it's almost like a chain around your neck.
Exactly.
And you
around your belly button.
Yeah, and you can't release it easily at all. No. And this is why, for people who are listening, because I'm sure many of our listeners are experiencing this, have had this, they can't get away. It just, and they feel entrapped. They feel like they're stuck. But the magnetism is so strong. It's what keeps them together. That's what work like Veronica does as an energy healer, counselor, master intuitive channeler can really help pull it apart.
We agree. Also, we want to throw in another thing. This one has been almost obsessed with what is the soul journey of people who keep re-entering war after war after war after war for eons, perhaps. And it's not the same as soulmates, but there's a similar edict in it, you see, because there is, it's not a simple memory of having been combative with a certain species, or it's not a simple memory, but there's this deep attraction, and it is called something like, this is reality, this is life, this is mine. It's very weird, and it keeps sending people round and around to be in war after war. Can you understand that? What we're talking about in essence is getting hold of or gaining some traction in comprehending the soul's information and the soul's desires, whether it's for your soulmate or whether it's to conquer another country. Do you understand? It's sort of a similar thing, not identical, but we're saying even focusing in that direction is one of the biggest steps in mankind these days, is to comprehend that.
I'm going to correct you, MIRICRIS, humankind.
Thank you for that.
I have to correct you. It's funny because a lot of times when you're looking at metaphysical ads and things and works that other metaphysicians are doing, there's this thing about soulmates, do you want to find your soulmate? And this topic, like from how we started talking about it, I'm not understanding the glitz and the glamour of why some psychics and channelers and metaphysicians would want to encourage people
because the legend tells you will meet someone who's just like you and wants just what you want.
Yeah.
The part of that is legendary, part of it is fictionalized.
Very well said. Yeah.
And we're not making people wrong.
Oh.
One of the things this leads to, and there's no way that you get out of this without leading to a whole bunch of things, Lori, is that beliefs, your belief structures. You need to look at those. Those are also tethers, are they not?
Right.
And words induce these beliefs in many ways. So we're teasing you and saying, it's a big job. This one always says that. It's a big job to be a human being because we have all these things that we can do, or you have. We're including her when we say we, because it's really important to her as well, that there are so many things you can do to undo the relentless propensities or the relentless drives for this, that, or the other, whether it's looking for a soulmate, right? You'll notice that karmic resolutions come up partially through that incredible drive to meet up with a situation that brings you to consciousness on that.
Yeah.
So it's the same magnetic pattern which we become, or many individuals become a part, you see. And well, we'll continue with the questions. That's enough to think about right now. Or is that enough for you, Lori?
Well, it leads me to this other thing that you'll hear put out there a lot, which is find your twin flame. What's the difference between a soulmate and a twin flame?
It appears that the interpretations that have been given to twin flames are by people who are highly, highly perceptive and sensitive. And they see the matching, actually matching how we appear to this one is in colors and changing frequencies. You understand? So when someone sees someone who has the colors, the intrinsic colors and matching frequencies to someone else, they're called twin flames. The assumption is, and we're not sure that this is always true, but the assumption is that means they'll think alike, they'll aim for a higher consciousness the same way, and so on. People make huge, huge assumptions. You understand that?
Right. So this is very different than a soulmate.
Very different.
Yeah.
It's purposeful. Well, it's not very different in a way, in that there's a huge attachment to it, but the harmony they're seeking is much more evolutionary, I suppose you would put it that way.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. Super interesting.
And the use of color and frequency is going to be more and more the way to resolve some of these issues. But we can speak of that further down in this conversation.
Right. Thank you. Do you want to move to politics? It's been,
yes, we have to, you see.
We have to. There's not a choice. It's been a hell of a week. A hell of a week.
Isn't it?
It's a week of, I guess, in some regards, hope, because I am so curious when Aileen Cannon allowed the Jack Smith report to be released. What was behind that, for all the ways that she obstructed for so long and has been a Trump appointee? What happened there for
There's
Aileen?
something interesting here, Lori, is that it appears that throughout not all of the Trump administration, but some of it, there are people saying, wait a minute, there are different ways of looking at things. There are different truths. And she's feeling somewhat daunted by something in herself that's kind of waking up. You see, because most of the edicts, I want that to go politically this way or that, are attachment to outcome, and they want to keep it solidified. And that isn't the healthiest thing. The ideal thing is for people to be attached to the progress of getting somewhere, you see? And she's waking up to a degree, and she's not very smart. Forgive me.
No, she's not. I was kind of wondering if, in fact, she had decided to take the bull by the horns and make her own decision on this one. her own
Uh,
decision.
Yeah, we would agree with that.
Very bold, because this may cost her the seat on the Supreme Court.
But she knows that and she's going for it. We would like to say one more thing here, which is her boss, Mr. Trump, has deeply offended her recently.
Wow.
And a woman scorned is often a very bitter being.
Wow.
So we say to you that some things like that are actually of great benefit to the society. You see, someone scorned, changes direction, becomes different, and there's a catalytic force in the
yeah.
yeah.
Fascinating. And then we have the Supreme Court allowing the hush money sentencing to go forward. Again, it was
Part
a
of the same
narrow
thing.
vote, but they did it. And it was Amy. You know, everybody was thinking, what is it, Amy Barron Cohen?
Kona Barrett.
Conan Barron. She is surprising. But again, they said the sentencing had to go forward.
But don't you notice that, and you know this very well, that deep in some of the most gritty people, there is their light, and there is a desire for improvement.
Right.
And it doesn't show up because it doesn't get votes or money or whatever. And because some people are nastily engaged in life of retribution. But there are several people awakening in the least likely arenas. And you're going to see it more and more. Not everyone, trust me, but more and more you're going to see evidence of people coming to an awakening in their own minds and
wow.
on television. And that's something to salute and praise and so on.
That's amazing. Incredible. And then now that the Jack Smith report is out, I mean, MIRICRIS, what do you think the effects of this are? Or are there any?
It appears to slow things down. Excuse me. It appears that the Jack Smith report will slow down the relentless process of Mr. Trump being the president. You understand that?
We have 3 days, 4
Yes,
days.
He will be slowed. We're making a prediction, which if you listen to all these people, oh, the predictions are different, are they not? And the reason is we were talking about soul path, belief structures, et cetera, et cetera. Well, a lot of these are undergoing just rapid fire changes, which means that the outcome in individuals is going to be unpredictable. But we're seeing that to be predictable, which we're going to try to do right here, is that the decisions being made by people are being jostled and affected on perhaps on a daily basis or a monthly basis. You're going to find it very erratic on the political roadway. And some people that you think are disgusting are going to become, oh, I get it, that sort of thing. And they're not all going to backslap or whatever people do when they say, oh, I get it, I understand it. It's a lot more bitter than that because of what they've been through. And people don't really like to say they bought the wrong candy bar, you see? But some of that's being said. And if you pay a lot of attention to even a short news broadcast, you'll hear it in the voices of presenters or voices of news presenters. I mean, you'll hear it and see it, the words. So and Mr. Biden is being very quiet about that.
I'm sorry, what did you say, MIRICRIS?
Mr. Biden is being very quiet about a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he knows.
What does he know?
that there are changes happening that he doesn't always expect, and nor do other people.
Huh. So we are 4 days away, and we have 4 days away from this inauguration,
Mhm.
and we have Michelle Obama not attending and being very vocal about that. We have President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush not attending the lunch. I don't know the rest of it, but the news reporting was the lunch. And the inauguration is moving inside. Can you speak to a little bit about the inauguration, Miracris?
Well, first of all, the reason for the rejections, you know that. It's the only way they can protest at this point.
Right.
And they need to protest because for many people, this particular inauguration is a nightmare. It's a huge nightmare. You understand that.
Mhm.
And we're saying, again, we've said this before, we're not sure it's going to be a happy day for Mr. Trump. We feel like it's a very frayed and torn up day. And that could be because of two things. One is that it doesn't go through as planned. We're not sure that that's what we're seeing. The other part of it is the underpinning of it all is changing and being frayed and being torn, and he's becoming more and more unsettled. He's being challenged on an inner way where people are threatening and having discussions that show some of his worst traits and the things that he's done wrong. And
Right.
And here is his inauguration. So it goes right into the inauguration. You'll see him actually suffering quite a lot.
Wow.
Because he doesn't know what's going to come of it. Do you understand that?
Wow.
And our reading on it is that he becomes weaker, more confused, and it's harder for him to know, to concentrate consciously on what's going on all the way through February.
Wow. But there is a possibility, it sounds like, that something could even derail it
Exactly.
within 4 days.
But we're not offering that as the great flag in
Yeah.
because do you understand variables? Of course you do. The variables are very, very high speed and very deep levels. You see, and when variables at deep levels come up, you know, like effervescence from the bottom of the mud,
Yeah.
they come up at their own rate.
Are
So
the-
we're
are-
saying to you, we don't know how it's going to go, but it's going to go.
Are there plots forming from other elements to undo him before
Yes.
the inauguration?
Yes.
Are they foreign or domestic?
Both.
Mhm.
We applaud the foreign ones because they're going to stop any foreign intervention because America does, even divided America, has the ability to amass the self-protection. Do you understand?
No, can you explain that?
We're saying that we applaud if America can be gathering forces, even the right and the left in different camps, against the international, the buzz of international interference. We see that Americans can coalesce on that particular subject because there's danger to America, and that will bring their heads in a similar alignment, at least for moments of time.
Yeah, but the effect of getting rid of the figure that's creating so much mayhem is I am curious to know how much of the MAGA party how much of them really are starting to, we hear about it in the news. I don't know if I completely understand it or believe it, but how many of them are really starting to question their vote?
Probably at least a third, 2/3 maybe.
That's quite,
I'd say maybe because so much of it is like there's a needle on this graph or this
wow,
yeah, and it moves back and forth right now.
wow.
And one of the reasons it moves back into hiding out of caution is because they're very afraid of losing what credibility, potential future things, and so on. But the reality is that one of the wonderful things we want to say to people is there's a growing consciousness, there's a consciousness rising in humanity that wants a higher, not so war struck, not so vindictive, not such a mean defense. Do you understand? Many people are saying, please, whether they're living in Russia or China, not so much China because they're isolated so much, but it's a rising, humanity is having some rising consciousness that is teaching and helping them feel love for one another where they didn't before.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was a brutal thing to think about for a lot of people.
Right. And talking about the mega party, seems like it's fracturing with
Yes,
Steve
and it should
Bannon
be.
and Elon Musk, the two camps.
But you'll notice that it's fracturing by nature of the egos of certain people, and egos will always destroy. It's always, if you look at anything that was a rising power, it's ego that destroys it. Elon Musk is stuck with his ego. Steve Bannon is a distorted ego anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's wonderful. It's a very good catalyst for people who want to see the demise of the MAGA domination or you understand?
Right.
It's a great tool. It's better than having a gun in their head.
A question about them moving the inauguration inside. Apparently, it's because the temperature with the wind chill is going to go down into the teens. Was this also because of a security risk?
Yes.
I knew it. Yeah, could feel that
And
one.
part of the problem is, you already know this too, because you're very perceptive, but you don't know who's whispering about whom and what their malevolous or nefarious goals are. And there's a lot of that going on.
Wow. I know at one point, MIRICRIS, you said there was about 40 plots, 40 different plots. Do you think that's still true?
It's down to 30 something.
Wow.
But that's a lot.
It is. And a number of those are also domestic, right? They're not foreign.
And just like in old plays in your great literature, that very often the tearing apart of the regime is from its own inside, its people inside, who know how to chew the foundations out of any beliefs and out of any adhesions between people, you know.
I just got a hit, and I don't know if it's a hit or if it's a fantasy or what, but I want to run it by you.
Please.
Is it possible that one of those plots is actually something along the lines of what happened in San Francisco when Dan White killed George Moscone, the mayor, and Harvey Milk, the supervisor? Could it be that one of these congressional people are willing to give their life in order to take the life? Because they have access inside the chambers.
Yes, it's possible. There are several people that would be willing to do that, which tells you that the nature of the temperature amongst people is very high. But we're not quite, see, the insidious thing is what we've been talking about, is the seeping through of the lack of trust of many of them in there could be
Mhm.
pulling apart the whole thing. So what you said, Lori, is a possibility, but we're not sure which one is coming first, the chicken or the egg.
Right.
But
Seemed
what
like a
there
very,
is, what there is a steamy mistrust going on very quickly.
wow,
Mhm.
what a mess. Total
Mhm.
chaos.
Horrible, horrible way to live.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, the big news to it's the gift that just keeps giving. TikTok is being banned starting on Sunday. The Supreme Court just upheld this ruling that they made a while back, and that date is this Sunday, which is just, the timing is just uncanny. And so they either have to sell it, or it has to go off air, and that will happen in stages. Do you see a buyer for TikTok?
No.
It's not
And the
Elon.
reason, pardon?
It's not Elon.
He's in trouble. He's in grand trouble. You know that.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that it doesn't seem like it's going to run, maybe we're wrong. It seems like he isn't trusted enough to have such a huge data chasing monolithic company right now. He could have gotten away with it last year, you see,
Yeah.
but not
Yep.
now. Yeah.
Not after
We're
Twitter.
seeing we're seeing that it might crash for a number of reasons. One is Americans want that in a way, since China wants to penetrate well enough to own a great deal of America. And there are a number of Americans who know that.
Mhm.
So there will be, and we're not just saying Americans, we're saying Americans who are in positions, financial positions and political positions.
Is
So
there a buyer for TikTok, or is it just going to go off the air eventually? Thing of the past.
yeah, it is a thing of the past, because the buyer that we see here, a little like how we see Mr. Trump, is a weakening force.
Mhm.
I don't really know what that means, except it's a weakening, a buyer who wants to, the reality of TikTok and its clause in America has really pushed the buttons of American money hierarchical people, because they don't want that kind of thievery in this country, but they would rather do it themselves.
Yeah, I do.
It's not a wash of all nefarious behavior, but there's something in there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So TikTok may become a thing of the past, it sounds like.
Oh, it'll come back in a different way, and you know that.
Yeah, I do. There's more social media, probably platforms coming as well in this upcoming time.
Yes, they're very much so. But they might, and now we'll say this final thing, Lori, is that we're seeing a rising consciousness of fairness. We'll call it nurturing the planet, nurturing humanity, nurturing evolution, and so on. There's a rising tide of that coming up in maybe 0.001% of people, but it's a lot of people. And that is going to shift. It's going to begin, you'll see it, and you'll even hear it in your news. It's going to begin to shift what is popular in human consciousness, because consciousness, like everything else, is ruled by popularity a lot of times. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
And I will have to release you this time, even though it's been wonderful, because this computer is going to die.
You've got your mind in several places, MIRICRIS. In technology. And
We
in
have to learn all of it, Lori, just like
yes,
you do.
I know. Well, thank you, MIRICRIS. It was lovely, and we're going to sign off.
Well, I want to say thank you because it has been a joy to share these moving consciousness and moving opinions and moving perceptions, and actually tuning into what is the evolution of the species on this planet.
Yes.
We thank you so much in the name of love and the name of evolution.
Beautiful. See you soon.
See you soon. Much love.